Chapter 10: The End of the War and an Unexpected Surprise. In Peter's declaration, his final months as a volunteer private in the Revolutionary War were spent marching towards Ohio and destroying Indian villages. This occurred after the Battle of Blue Licks. This occurred after they had gathered the dead, their friends and comrades, and buried them on the battleground. Peter may not have been able to procure a horse, but he was able and expected to participate in this painful duty of burying the dead. Obviously, the army, or shall we say those in charge, had an axe to grind. Peter states his orders to destroy the Indian villages came from General George Rogers Clark, who in turn gave them to Colonel Logan. Peter was assigned to march in Captain Charles Hazelgrig's company within Colonel Logan's regiment. These next two sentences from Bennett Young's book, History of the Battle of Blue Licks, sums up the siege of Bryan Station and the Battle of Blue Licks fairly well. There is nothing more glorious or more heroic in Kentucky's history than the siege of Bryan Station, nor is there anything more tragic or more dreadful in that same history in the Battle of Blue Licks. The one was a sequel to the other. Victory was brief for those in Bryan Station. The Battle of Blue Licks' defeat lingers still. Well, after Peter served up to the peace between the country and Great Britain the 15th of April of 1783 and returned to his residence, where was this exactly? We know he moved to Mercer County, Kentucky and married Jerusha Barlow in the year of 1787. And in 1795, he landed in Washington County and lived on his farm near the Beach Fork. But where was his residence during his days as a private in the Revolutionary War, and even prior to that, the years between 1779 and 1787? Can you tell I have an inquisitive mind? Growing up, I used to wear out my parents with all of my questions. I was constantly asking my mom and dad exceedingly minute why questions. They would put up with my bothersome inquiries for a while, and finally I knew I had pushed my limit when my father would say, "Just because, Denise," or "because I told you so." I believe, though, my inquisitive mind is why I have loved my journey getting to know Peter B.F. Adams, as well as my other ancestors. Each time I discovered a tiny shred of information, a question would poke through my brain, and each time a question poked through my brain, additional research would commence. Sometimes the research proved fruitful, sometimes not. If any of you are familiar with Lyman C. Draper, then you know he is the authority on a number of early Americans, such as Daniel Boone and George Rogers Clark. Most of Draper's manuscripts cover the time period before, during, and after the American Revolutionary War. I was introduced to Mr. Draper through a church friend who loves history as much as I do. He encouraged me to purchase Lyman Draper's book on the life of Daniel Boone, and I did. Fascinating information. Then I researched the internet to see what else I could discover. To my amazement, I found the calendar of the Kentucky papers of the Draper collection of manuscripts on FamilySearch.org. Family Search has become a trusted source during my genealogy research. And as I perused the 629 pages of this document, lo and behold, I found Peter B.F. Adams listed not once, but twice. On page 300, I found the following information. 1845, June 8th. Adams, Peter B.F., Washington County, Kentucky. Obituary. Newspaper clipping from the Banner and Pioneer. Then, on page 342 of the calendar of the Kentucky papers, I discovered Lyman Draper actually interviewed Peter B.F. Adams. Oh, I wanted these documents badly. The Draper interview and Peter's obituary. Containing this knowledge would definitely give us a view of the life of our ancestor Peter, not yet known. Fruitful information, you bet. On with the search. Turning to my trusty computer, I hunted and searched for these documents, coming up empty too many times to count. I tried numerous routes that would always meet with a dead end. I did find out, however, that the Banner and Pioneer was a short-lived newspaper, publishing no more than 10 years before merging with a large newspaper. Great. but not the information I desperately wanted to read. Feeling a bit dejected, I remembered the church friend stating that the Wisconsin Historic Society Library is the resting place for many of Lyman Draper's research documents. Could they possibly help? With nothing to lose, I sent an email to the Wisconsin Historical Society's library, Ask a Librarian department. Lo and behold, Lee, a research archivist, responded within a few hours and was able to email me the exact volume and pages necessary to find the elusive obituary and Draper's interview. Getting closer, I gingerly asked how one goes about receiving a copy. Well, Lee instructed me to forward his information to one of the Wisconsin Historical Society's library reference assistants, and they should be able to help. After obeying Lee's instructions, I sent another email to the Wisconsin Historical Society Division of Archives and Manuscripts. You can't imagine my delight when Jessica, a library reference assistant, responded to my request with my much sought after documents. In my eyes, she performed magic. Actually, she was probably just doing what she does on a daily basis. But for me, she was an angel. Think of it. Peter's obituary was at my fingertips. Lyman C. Draper's interview with Peter on December 3rd of 1844 was there too. I have to say, though, my excitement dissipated a bit after opening Lyman's notes. I desperately wanted to read Peter's words. Lyman's handwriting, however, prevented me from reading it outright. In spite of this obstacle, perseverance prevailed. To the best of my ability and with immense help from Jessica from the Wisconsin Historical Society, Nancy Ann Pointer, and Lisa Diane Drake, we have worked through Mr. Draper's handwriting to translate Peter's words. Now, to view this original document and our translation, check out my Google folder. And if you have not yet sent me an email to access these documents, please do so at rodenhooscd@gmail.com. Now, why am I including this fresh evidence of Peter's revolutionary life? For me, it shows that Peter B.F. Adams was well respected and that his service to our brand new country did not go unnoticed. It has been satisfying finding these nuggets of information. I hope you can hear the pride in my voice as I read these words. And by the way, I have not forgotten about Peter's obituary. It's coming up in chapter 14.